Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast on generational curses. This can be found in chapter 10, Chris Blount's claimed book, Spirit Realms. God bless you.
And we start to even have our own doubts in our own faith because, again, of this generational curse that is no longer on you or binded on you. It's loosed and freed. You've got to understand something. When you become a child or a daughter of God, a son or a daughter of God, rather, you no longer have any curses held over you in contempt against the Father. You're completely free. You're no longer a slave. So when you start to see those thoughts sort of creep back up in your head, and when you're starting to think, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm going to die young, a premature death because my dad died, my uncle died, my brother died, and all this crap, right, that is not truth. Remember this full well, it is not what the Lord's new plan for your life looks like at all. So as we read on in 2 Samuel 21 verse 1, it says, it is for Saul and his bloody house, because he put the Gibeonites to death. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not of the sons of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And the sons of Israel made a covenant with them. But Saul had sought to kill them, here we go, in his zeal for the sons of Israel and Judah. So let's make sure we understand what happened. Joshua mistakenly made a covenant with Gibeon and let them live in the promised land against God's direct orders. About 370 years later, King Saul then murdered those Gibeonites because of his zeal for the people of God. Later, Saul dies in battle and David then becomes king. He reigned for many years after this, encountering a serious famine for his people. When the famine occurred, he asked God for direction. Finally, he realizes the wrongs, which led him to uncover a family curse that occurred in the previous generation. Hold up for a second. There was a family curse that had absolutely nothing to do with him, but was later uncovered from the previous generation. Now, in other words, it's not reigned in 3 years. There'd be no signs that this was running amok in this person's life. The crops were failing, people were dying, the sheep and cattle were dying, and Israel was forced into a great time of depression. All because a long-dead king's relatives, ancestors, sinned against the Gibeonites. Wow, that's powerful. Now, it was Joshua who screwed up and disobeyed God. It was Saul who broke a multi-generational Israeli covenant with the Gibeonites to commit genocide against them. Does this sound familiar in your life, friend? But it was David who reaped the effects of their sin. This is what is called a generational curse. And we've got to really get down to business with this and let God do the work, right? The new work. Because people are unknowingly affected by this today in Australia, especially in America, Canada. There's a lot of people in government and high places of authority, the elites, who take a whole bunch of oaths and do not realize what they're speaking over their family or their wives or loved ones' lives. This is basically the equivalent of selling your soul to the devil for a donut or a new car. It's really bad, and it's really, really hard to measure the full damage of it, besides the things that happen with the news reports. So guys, as we read on, Chris Blount then talks about his story personally a little more about this curse. Let me take you back to my nightmare in the bathtub and share with you the rest of the story that I've been keeping from until now. Do you remember in chapter 1 I told you about a panic attack that I had that lasted over 3 years? Whoa, it had started with the intense thought, I'm going to die. Oh man, I can relate back to that so many times. And it's harder being single. I believe the devil really uses that as a foothold and as a powerful yield against you and God. But you got to break and bind that, because you're not going to die. Death has been conquered. Jesus has died for that and taken death's place. So remember that and find full assurance in that, friend, tuning in today. For my next episode, it may not be as heavy as this, but I really felt like I had to put the words out there on the plate today. It's Monday.